I'll be ready in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, what would it be if our history teach us to be not repeating the history itself, but it would likely to be repeated and become much more worse the situation than the previous one or the previous history due to the fault of teaching methods. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to oppose that history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than a top-down historiography, because due to the many of the issues that's leading so much causes problem to the country and stuff. So I will go into my speech, but before that, I will going to talk about my rebuttal first. So here's the first one is that, but the fact is that this would likely to make the stigma of the government needs a consequences because due to the fact that they were seen as a privileged people. Many of the society thinks that that government team has a privilege. They already has been a rich guy, a rich man, has been plenty of land such as that, and need a consequences of it, and not because due to the fact that they don't give their land to the society or don't help them. But it wasn't fully their fault that they live that way. So that is my first rebuttal, and the second one is that this is the reason why nationalism heroes should be justified and need validation, because the matter of the fact that this heroism and their courage should be appreciated due to many of the people were too afraid to fight back as they got the same situation. But this hero was not. They were confident. They was brave, courage, and they had the courage to defend their countries. They are risking their life, but they deserve the title to be due to the courages that many people don't have. So that is my rebuttal. So we will moving on into my speech. But before that, I will divide it into two sections, which are the first one is that by the definition, by the background, which including definition, status quo, stakeholder, and urgency, and the last one is goal, and the second one is that my argument. So the first one is the definition. Historiography is a method and perspective and approaches used to interpret history. Top-down historiography focuses on the role of leaders, government, and major institutions, e.a. shaping history. And second one is that bottom-up historiography focus on the roles of ordinary people, social group, and a grassroots movement in shaping history. We would oppose this due to the fact that it is only pushing the regression of history and much more issue to the country. So that is my definition. Moving on into my status quo. With the textbook focusing on bottom-up, this would likely causing many issues to the global. It would be likely a movement towards the society and became a motivation of it. I will mention this later into my argument. Moving on into my stakeholder, there are three, which are including society, government, and the student. Moving on into the urgency, society is the one who's got the motivation of the movement that leads to a crime. So basically, the one who's got this bottom-up teaching that leading them to do crime. So that is the society, and the second one is that the government is the one who's got the discrimination from the society due to the teaching them of bottom-up historiography to the society, and the last one is that student is the one who's got brainwashed due to the bottom-up historiography method. So I will mention it into my argument. Moving on into our goal. Our goal is to be simple and clear that we oppose that history textbook should teach up bottom-up rather than top-down historiography due to the causing issues to the country. So I will moving on into my argument. Before I go into my argument, I'm going to divide it into three sections, which including our history regression, causes of the movement, and the last one is the effect of to the students. So I'll moving on into my first argument is that history regression. With the bottom-up historiography method, this would likely to only get a little information of it due to the matter of facts. They only can get a social group, ordinary people, and grassroots, but not the leader of stuff of it. With the matter of fact, this method was considered useless due to the many of them stated that their life was held through drawing, etc. due to the ordinary people's journal, due to the social group experience. This would giving a hint that it was the government's fault, because due to the fact that many of the history lives that life that was based on the government, this would likely to pushing the pace toward the government, because ordinary people tend to fan their emotion and blame it to the government. But the fact is that why would they likely pushing the hate toward the government and decide to do discrimination to the government? Here's the fact why. Because the fact that their economy or financial broke due to the fact that government were seen as a rich people, privileged people that has many ways that they can still be rich even though they sold many lands or they had broke down, bankrupt. Those society thinks that government still is still the one who's becoming rich people, and the society doesn't get rich because due to the fact that they economic or financial broke, making it would be normalized to blame government because throughout the centuries that it was basically has been many stated that it was basically government's fault because due to their economy and financial growth, this would like causing that the society to likely to fan their anger and blaming the government. Due to that, it was became normalized. But in the reality, government is the one who's improving the countries. They had a big improvement, such as the infrastructure of the countries, the trade of the countries between other countries. This was likely that government is the one who's improving the countries, but they would likely seem to be they were likely to be blamed by the society due to the fact that they're rich and the society are not rich. This would likely causing that many of them started to blame. They had a big improvement. Because of that, why would they be targeted as a victim of blame? This would making the stigma that everything is government's fault. So, like example, that in this Indonesian society still blame the government team, but many of them has make up a lot of improvement to the countries, but due to the fact that it was the society normalized the blaming to the government and stuff. That is my first argument. Moving on into my second argument is the cause of the movement. Due to the bottom-up method historiography, this would likely think that it was government's fault. Why? Because due to the fact that the relatable history of past people, such as the social group, ordinary people, has a relatable life to the modern society as they seen that government is the one who's take the handle. So that's why, because the history is basically the same cycle but different. Yeah, this would likely be pushing the movement of those civil war, regime change, and colonialism, especially the civil war and regime change. The fact that government is the same throughout the history and pushing this to be a serious issue to the country. The discrimination of government and how they try to assassination of the government, but not all the governing teams are like that, making it the country had a regime change or civil wars. That is my second argument, and I will moving on into my third or last argument is that the effect of the students. So still able to the fact that they're still young and need a positive guidance. But the fact is bottom-up historiography method were more focused to the textbook. This was likely causing them to be brainwashed and only making them feel that government was bad guy because the system of the government would likely to pushing the movement too. So I concluded all my three arguments, and we would like to oppose the history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than a top-down historiography.